All right, we are recording a quick video going over my latest classical game. Um, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. So it's supposed to be a 30-30. My opponent reached out saying they preferred 45, I think 45 or 45-30. And I have no problem with a slightly longer game. So let's get into it. I'm pretty proud. Okay. I think I handled myself pretty well. And then we'll see the game, and then we'll talk about it afterward. I have done analysis on the Chess Dojo website. No computer. I've peeked at the computer, but I didn't do like a full going through with a computer analysis. I was just curious about one specific part, and we'll talk about that in a bit. So, e4, c5. I was not really prepared for c5. Not that I prepare a whole lot at the lower levels. Knight f3, so okay, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and then here I'm like, okay, so we're into the Najdorf. I have not necessarily looked into the Najdorf specifically. I have some ideas, but I'm not completely sure how to deal with it. Bishop e3, just getting my bishop off the back rank. I didn't want to, and this is like also because I didn't have a specific idea of where I wanted my bishop to go. Mostly because f4 runs immediately into getting forked, so we don't want to do that. G5, if they push me, I'm not really intending on taking, at least not right now, because I hesitate to just start pulling pieces off the board. I do know so going into this, and like in general, I do know the Sicilian Najdorf, from my understanding, is you give up a few tempo to build a really good position, and if white, me in this case, can't knock your head off, can't hit you with an attack in that time, you've been able to build up a good enough position that you're more likely to win. So that is kind of what I have in mind here, right? I understand that I might have a few tempo, and I need to figure out how to use it. E5, immediately going in the center, and then I go knight d to e2. This is not the usual move. Generally speaking, in like the main line, if we want to use that, knight goes to b3. And this is like I checked it with the positional database, and I have since seen a few videos about the Najdorf, even though a lot of those kind of videos where they talk about famous games in the Najdorf, you don't get e5, you get e6, and then maybe you come out here. And I think there was a Bobby Fischer game where they did something like this, because you can actually sack for a piece for 2 pawns on this on e6. I don't think you can do it right now, because that's just pawn takes. Yeah, it's more than that. But there are ideas of sacrifices like that in the Najdorf. In general, where it's maybe it's e6. So I'm not super well versed in the Najdorf. And then if you come out here, I believe this was a Fischer game, and then now there are sacking ideas on. So like you can't, in general, with air quotes, like this is like kind of stuff that I don't. It's higher than my level, at least to right now, right? Where the bishop can no longer go to e7, because you can reasonably, I guess, sack your light squared bishop or sack your knight. One of those is stronger than the other. I think it's the knight. And you basically sack on e6, stop castling, and yeah, and then it's you're castled and happy, so like castles here, and then it might be something like this, and you've sacked a pawn for 2 pieces, and I don't know, I'm not that good. So, but the game I watched kind of a recap on, just like a, didn't know how to play the Open Sicilian until I watched this video. They talk about the Knight Orf in it, and then in it is this idea of e6. Anyway, so I go Knight B to e2 with the idea of I'm trying to facilitate a stronger f4 pawn push to break open the center because I'm ahead in development. This is not a bad move, with air quotes. It's not a normal move, and it is played very rarely, but this is not like a losing move. You're still good here, although I think you might be very much slightly worse. No, it's still even. Anyway, and so my opponent continues development. I'm thinking about the pawn push, and because my knight has kind of brought my has kind of locked in my light squared bishop, I'm like, okay, well, I'm castling queenside. I do believe in the positional database. A lot of people here immediately go g3. Queen d2. I don't remember specifically, but I don't think it was played as quickly as like the knight g3. I didn't necessarily want to go knight g3. I did think about it for a bit, but I felt if I'm opposite side castling, going for a pawn storm, throwing a piece in front of my pawns wasn't going to be the best like use of my time. It could be interesting if, say, knight g3, there are, say the knight goes away or not, planting your what do you call this? No, because that wouldn't work, because you could just come back and attack it and it wouldn't be whatever. I was just thinking that there might be ideas where if you did go g3, you could plant your knight on d5 to kind of divert the light squared bishop, and then try and hit up f5. But generally speaking, I would say maybe do it the opposite way. So g3, f5 takes, takes back. Plant your knight on d5, provided this knight isn't here, and then you could maybe sink it in with like c4, and then you have black has a really bad bishop versus a good knight. Just an idea. Anyway, I castle, they castle, and I believe now castling is, and I believe this castle is the first like novelty of the game in regards to the Masters database. I've not checked the Lichess database. f4. I wanted the pawn push. Knight c6. And now I thought about, so say they, I don't know, did something, right? Takes. I could do a queen trade. You would take back with the dark squared bishop, and then, maybe I can drum something up. I didn't really think too hard. I was more fine with a queen trade, I think, than I should have been. But as soon as they got their knight here, I spent a second because I was like, and then here, actually, I spent 12 minutes. Probably one of the longest things I've had, because I have a bunch of kind of ideas that I wanted to explore. So g3 I didn't like, and we're going to go through them, obviously. So g3 I didn't like because, again, I'm blocking that pawn. I'm just blocking a pawn that, and now it's very clear that I want to maybe do a pawn storm. Ooh, goodness. I thought about uh knight d5 for a while. So hold on. I really didn't go too much past this position. I really didn't go too much past this position because I was like, I don't. Again, it's that problem I have of like I don't see necessarily where my pieces are going. And with that, I thought maybe it was too slow, right? My opponent's got a pretty, like, I've got one tempo before they start kicking my pieces away and taking my stuff. So I thought G3 was too slow again. H5, G4, too slow because H5, you push, G4, you push. I have to move my knight. Because, like, say I push here, this is just a free piece, more or less. Mainly because it's like, I have to deal with this pawn. I can't just go, haha, right? I'm going to lose my queen. So I rejected H3. I rejected G3 fairly quickly, but I still wanted to take time to, like, look at him and, like, try and marinate in the position a bit. And putting it on, I spent a good amount of time looking at D5 or knight D5 because, you know, so you take and I take here. I now have a tempo on the knight. Where does the knight go? Not really any good spaces. So you're coming here or here, and I'm feeling pretty good because this pawn is overprotected. So I spent a long time looking at this position, just confirming that, like, okay, how logical is this? Or if you come here and you take with the knight, it's probably more of a blunder because now I'm doing a pawn fork. And so I'm looking through those two, and I'm like, okay, well, how can this go wrong? And it's part of the reason why I spent so much time here. And eventually I did see it because, D5, well, I've now undefended my E4 pawn, and you have the ability to take, you have that tempo on my queen. Sure, I can take your dark squared bishop. That was bad. That was not doing anything. So I can trade off my good attacking piece for a bad bishop. They takes back, and it's not like I can try and trade queens while maintaining anything, right? Because the knight here, this now disgustingly good knight, is protecting that square. And so it's like, well, now I have to figure out where I want to go. Not to mention, this pawn is still under attack. And yeah, you don't really want to take it because it renews it gives me another attacker here, like a minor piece. But I think overall, I could probably maybe win that pawn. But yeah, I saw this. I saw a pawn with no compensation. You have a bigger center. You have your central pawns. Yeah. And so that's why I spent a lot of time here, because I saw that. And I was like, okay, well, now we need to figure something else out. And now it's back to the drawing board of, what do I want to do here, right? I could go G3, look at that a little bit again, and I go, again, I can't figure out what my plan is with my knight on G3. And it interferes with kind of the only plan that I have, at least in my head right now. And then I started looking at G4. There was a game earlier that I've played maybe a week or two ago where the best move, with air quotes, was to sacrifice a G4 pawn to open up lines and get a kingside attack going. And that's ended up what I went with, right? I wanted to see, okay, well, what does this look like? Well, I can come here. You can back off. I can then come over because this is protected, so I'm not losing another pawn. Now I'm starting to put pressure down the G file. Now I'm threatening to take to open up my dark squared bishop. So how are we dealing with kind of all of this stuff? So I go g4. They take, as you should. And this is, so now that we've gotten to this position, I think the engine kind of ruins my enthusiasm about this game a little bit, right? I'm fine with making an unsound sacrifice, but I was still proud of the game. But then you turn the engine on, get the truth of the position, and then you don't and then you're like, actually, this was a terrible move. And it's not a terrible move. It just gives up a pawn without enough compensation. So if you turn the engine on, it's not the best, right? It slowly goes towards, I don't know. So it kind of like, I was very proud of this move. I took 12 minutes to really think about everything I wanted to do. And again, I haven't looked at the engine regarding this position to figure out what I'm supposed to do. But it does throw a bit of cold water on it. Anyway, they take king b1. Why king b1? I read my opponent's annotations on the game because we're both part of the chess dojo. And he didn't really understand why I made this move. And that's perfectly fine, right? But I did try to explain that, like, there is, and to be honest, absolutely there is a case to be made for ignoring. So say I do something goofy, all right? I do something dumb. Let's see. Let's look at it. What can we do that's dumb? That would be reasonable. So instead of going king b1, as you can see, all these are, reasonable idea of, I did think about this with the idea of stopping their knight and then maybe facilitating a pawn push. Obviously, king b1 is the best, but let's look at our options, okay? Maybe like this. Let's go a little crazy. Let's prove the point, okay, that I want to make. Takes. Your boy has lost their queen. Now, in the game, I did not see this exact scenario because my plan was to come here, king g1. And then I said, and then while re-looking at it, here. And you know, me with my poor visualization skills, I didn't realize, okay, well, that square's protected, so that's fine. I thought, you know what, let's get my king off of b1, further protect, and it was like a Gotham chess video where they said that king b1 after castling queenside, if you're not going to like lose in the next few moves, is rarely like a terrible move. So I didn't think it was the best move, but I didn't think it was an absolutely losing move. I thought it was a good consolidation. So b5, they're starting their kingside attack. Now I'm coming inside to knight d5. I did not want to come over just yet to I didn't want to come over just yet and then just sack a second pawn. Didn't think that would be super great, even if I could take here and start figuring stuff out, because now it's now they're coming in here and my queens I'm getting forked real hard. So I didn't really want to do that. Even though I didn't necessarily look at everything like I just did. I just kind of felt that maybe losing a second pawn is asking a lot from my position. So bishop takes d5. That's perfectly fine. E takes d5. Now their bishop is terrible. And I disagree with my opponent, generally speaking. in that they never took my dark squared bishop. I probably would have snapped this bishop off the board. Just throwing it out there. I thought they were going to take it. And I didn't like that they were going to take it, but I thought they would. But instead, they come here, bishop, knight c4, bishop takes c4, and then I'm out. We're not getting, we're trying not to get, I'm going to try and keep my bishop, but now if we see, I'm started, now I'm going to put pressure on this pawn. And you can't really push this, just yet, because you're going to get forked. And that's going to be very unpleasant. So, f6, they want to trade off. So they're a pawn ahead, and it is not a bad idea to just start trading off your pieces and go for the king and pawn endgame, or for the pawn endgame, because that extra pawn is a passed pawn. So in this position, I feel like my opponent would be stronger. If everything's off the board, my opponent would probably win with this passed pawn. A knight h5, this I thought was brilliant. Again, I took less time than the 12 minutes, but I took a lot of time here because you always want to, or I'm trying to do better about double checking. I don't think taking is the right move. But I do think this is the right move because, one, well, we're now putting up more resistance on these two squares. And if they take, this was what I saw in my head, well, now I'm here, right? And I was like, and it's a double attack. Now, what I didn't see in the head was coming back. And then, now we're just, I believe, in my opponent's annotations, they're a pawn ahead, but I believe I'm better in this endgame. Don't quote me on that. And I think the problem is it's hard. This is your extra pawn, and it's hard to guard this pawn because your king has been separated. Now, does that mean they couldn't just come over here and start trading off and trade off their rooks? Maybe. That would make this an incredibly hard endgame to win for either side, but they have that extra pawn, but it's a double isolated pawn, so it's kind of a target. Interesting, I think. I'm going to say unclear because I'm bad at chess. And so let's see. h5, and now we are really glad that we moved the king. Because if we did not move the king, we'd be in trouble here, right? You can't go h5 then. Because of this, right? So you have to protect this. And honestly, this is going to get absolutely messed with. So it would almost have to be a trade here. Maybe you go back with a knight, and it's just an incredibly difficult position because now we're having to guard here and yada yada. So h5, knight g5. Thank God I moved my king. I can't take it, right? And at first, when I was looking at this position, I thought I was going to go c3 to further, to now double attack, right? So c3, you have to come up. Now the problem here becomes, where does my knight go? Which may gives them the option of defending this pawn. So now we have issues. Well, hold on. Sorry, I'm just thinking of like maybe pulling over, coming up. There is plans here, but not with losing our queen. So queen g2, and I took a little bit of time here. I think 5 minutes trying to figure out how bad this was for me. And part of it was because I was trying to figure out this move here, right? Yeah. So part of it was, I'm trying to, and then seeing a few moves ahead, right? I'll sit in a position and then try to find that best move and then try to figure out how to deal with that best move so that hopefully I can kind of be ready. So it's like using time on one move to use time on a second move, if that makes sense. So here, the plan was to take, right? Because if you take back, you're mated. So you can't actually take the knight, or you can't take back. And then I wanted to, and then I thought, okay, so here, attacking my knight, but then what was the idea? Not moving my knight. I think here, with the idea of coming over and double attacking. Here, yeah, because you can't take it again. It's defended, but I can take a pawn, and now I'm no longer a pawn down, and the G file is open, and this is gonna hurt. There's no two ways about it. It's gonna hurt. Good luck trying to figure out how to deal with this, right? Because as soon as some kind of heavy comes here, it's mate. So how do you even deal with it? Maybe you can come back, but again, how do you deal with it? Rook H1. Well, here, right? So Queen G2, thinking that, putting pressure down the G file with my queen is going to be the best option. Unfortunately, my opponent here did do a little bit of a blundy. We're both he, in his annotations, talked about how he's starting to stress on time. Unfortunately, he didn't really have to worry about that. We all have our things during the game. So queen takes G5 is just a free piece. Knight takes H5, queen takes H5, and then here it becomes, can I convert with an extra piece, or a piece for a pawn? And it's not easy, actually. This is another part where I want to show kind of the skill of a higher rated opponent, and how it's like it's never that easy, right? So G on the H file. Queen G4, I'm just trying not to start losing my stuff. I do see this check here, so I could maybe drum something up with that check, but I decided to go back because I thought it's pretty obvious they're going to push. They're going to push, and then I have to come up, and it sucks. So I didn't want to do that, so I just go ahead and come back bishop C3, trying to find a new play, trying to find a play. We're doubling up now. Right? Now there's two pieces on here. Okay, they're defending the pawn. I'm now trying to create lift for my opponent, and I was also slightly worried about pushing F5. This pawn, if it keeps, because I can't take it, it's defended, and if it keeps like going up and up and up and up and up, and it's going to get scary, and I don't want that. So F1 is to stop any kind of pawn push. H5, they're getting out of the pin, so that I can't just like take, I guess, or they want to put. Sorry, I knew they wanted to push here. And so to basically to stop my rook from coming to F4. But unfortunately, they're a little too slow, and my rook can come to F4. They can push now, but because of the tempo I would have on the queen, it's definitely winning for me. Also. Yeah. Queen b7, you kind of got to give up the pawn at this point. There's too much pressure on it. And now they're threatening to come into check here. Because it's kind of the unfortunate part of like their queen happens to be in front of their rook. Um, you can't really afford in this position to like give up a queen for a rook, especially when uh, there's another. It's like a defended by. It's like a sideways Alekine's gun. Um, and then this a bit of levity in the situation uh, was like a shot. And I had that kind of mentally fun, to me at least. I realize this is very frustrating for my opponent. Like sound effect to have a bit of levity. So Queen A8. Now, right? My opponent, I do like this, right? Was not idle in making idle threats. My problem is I am not good at blitz in any way, shape, or form. So it would be very easy for me to lose. Okay, but my opponent played on because they knew they had a bit of a time advantage on me. So Queen E6, I'm attacking the loose pieces. And then here I'm getting a bit greedy. Okay, better would have probably been to go A3. If you notice, I have a bit of a problem with my back rank. Okay, and this queen is poised to give me a heartbreak in this game. And so I Queen D6, get a little greedy, and then now we come back. And because, hold on, if say, and I came back here, I'm trying to find the best square for me to not just completely lose. Okay. This rook hitting this square is checkmate. This queen hitting this square is checkmate. So my idea here was just to get rid of it. Just stop the checkmate. Now, interestingly, I actually think maybe... Oh, yeah, no. So the idea here was just to go ahead and give that pawn back. I admit my oopsie. They take it with the queen, threatening checkmate here on the back rank. So we just fix that. We say, you can have that pawn. So now's when it starts getting interesting, right? I have 2 minutes on the clock, and my opponent is playing really sneakily. I did not even at this point see the threat, right? And I believe it might even still be winning. Almost. No. If I make a innocuous move, right? Let's do this. Check. Can't go anywhere. Block with the queen. Takes. And you're up a pawn. And not an well, hold on. Oh, it's not my move. So now you can do something like this. Here no longer works. Interesting. Yeah. I'd be willing to bet you can, yeah. White's killing it. Black's killing it here. So I didn't see that, right? My focus here is kind of on, I need to get rid of one of these. I need to get rid of the rook. I'm threatening mate. You have to move your rook. You cannot trade it because, again, say I come here, I can go here, right? And yeah, is it uncomfortable? Yeah, but dead winning. It's not going to be the easiest in the world, but it's not going to be particularly hard, right? Your pass pawn doesn't mean much. Your king has to get in. Our kings are very similar. I'm going to come into the center. You can't protect all of your pawns, so I can come over here and help this pawn while marching my boy down the road. So King E8, this is no longer a threat. And I don't like that I couldn't move my king, so I decided to just go ahead and move my bishop, or my pawn. And here I think this was maybe a mistake. Maybe. Queen f2. I want to maintain contact with my queen on this f-pawn because of the alignment. Rook c8. Now, this is where my opponent is super ding-dang tricky. I'm just really impressed with their play. My rook is hanging here, and I had no idea. If I make the wrong move, like, what if I wanted to come up? That rook is gone. My entire advantage is shattered. No. Well, maybe not. But you kind of see what I mean, right? And I didn't really look at the ending that closely. But my opponent is playing how I feel like I want to play in this kind of position where every move is a little bit venomous. Maybe it's not the best move. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But I do know that rook b8 and the fact that this rook is now hanging is tricky as hell. Even if the queen can't really come off of this line. Even if the rook comes in, takes, and you know, you come this way and whatever. I take queen f6. I'm confident in my ability to win this, especially because I have a bunch more pawns. I'm going to look to trade off my rooks. I'm going to, you know, do whatever. And here my opponent resigns. It's plus 30 seconds, and I don't think there's enough on the board to create issues that I can't figure out in the time. So he ends up resigning here. And regardless of what the computer says, I'm really proud of this, right? I found a nice plan. I opened up the G file, and then I was able to successfully put my pieces on correct enough squares to perform that attack on the G file. Pretty happy with the way things went. Anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the game. I hope the analysis helped a bit with kind of the mindset. I didn't go too deep into some of the variations, just the points where I calculated particularly hard, right? Or where I had to figure out enough in the position to where I had to kind of like understand the position enough. Maybe it's not perfect, but you know, we can definitely try to get better. And I enjoy my classical games, especially like a 45-minute game where I can spend 12 minutes, and even if the sack doesn't really work, who cares? Hope you enjoyed the video. We'll talk to you later. Bye.